All right, so we're going to move on into section 2 of unit 2, which is going to be chemical reactions, talking about some basic chemical reaction principles here that we need to know as we move through studying life in this course. So what is a chemical reaction? Well, the vocab definition for a chemical reaction is the interaction between chemicals that causes them to change into different chemicals. So chemical formulas, a chemical or molecule that is written using symbols from the periodic tables and numbers. Periodic table, not plurals, and numbers. These can also be used to represent chemical equations. So if we look here, this is what we would call a chemical equation, okay? This is the chemical equation for photosynthesis, which we'll deal a lot with in this class. And the reversal, or if this reaction was to go the other way, it would be the formula for cellular respiration. So the reactants are the chemicals that are reacting, and the arrow or yield sign, which is this right here, is known as yields, but some people call it the arrow, is not pointing towards them. The products or the chemicals that are a result of the reaction is the arrow or the yield sign is pointing towards them. So in this particular example, the arrow is pointing towards C6H12O6 and O2. So these are the products, and the arrow is not pointing to CO2 and H2O. So these are the reactants. So structural formulas is a chemical or molecule represented with a 2D or 3D models. Okay, symbols and numbers can also be used as well. So if we look, you've got two different versions here. You have the ball and stick model, which can be done, it can be computer generated, or it could also be physically done with ball and stick model kits. And these are also structural formulas where numbers and letters are inserted to help see the shape that is going to be made. All right, so inorganic chemistry is the chemistry that deals with inorganic chemicals like gases and metals. Okay, so when we talk about chemistry, chemistry is divided typically up into two different categories, inorganic and organic. Okay, inorganic doesn't typically deal with living chemistry or chemistry that is involved in living things. The other side of this is organic chemistry. So organic chemistry is chemistry that deals with organic chemicals. Okay, so organic chemistry deals with all the compounds that make up life and how that operates together. All right, so in biological science, this branch of chemistry is largely dealing with four classes of macromolecules: carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acids. And with organic chemistry, carbon is typically going to be focused on. Okay, carbon is the backbone of life, and we'll talk about that here in a minute. So carbon, 30% of an organism's biomass is carbon. It is important for the formation of the four classes of macromolecules in living things. Carbon is the backbone of living things. And the reason carbon's the backbone of living things is because it can make long chains with itself, which allows a lot of different things to combine to it. All right, so carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the source of all carbon in living things. Plants and other producers use carbon from carbon dioxide in order to create glucose through the process of photosynthesis. Organisms break down glucose for energy and release carbon dioxide as a waste product through the process of cellular respiration. So plants bring in carbon dioxide, okay, the gas, and turn it into organic carbon and sugar, and then consumers consume that or eat that sugar and burn it as energy and put carbon dioxide or carbon back into the atmosphere to be used again. So carbon also exists in many natural forms. These forms can be graphite and diamonds. And carbon has tetravalence, or they say tetravalent. So carbon is tetravalent, which means it has 4 electrons available for covalent bonding. Remember, think back to the last presentation we did over section 1. We talked about covalent bonding, okay? So it can form 4 single bonds with different elements. It can also form double or triple bonds. Carbon's tetravalence allows it to form many bonds, and it forms the backbone of organic molecules in organisms. So here you see a single bond, single covalent bond, a double covalent bond, and a triple covalent bond. So a hydrocarbon are molecules that consist entirely of hydrogen and carbon atoms. Hydrocarbons are a source of abundant energy in nature. They also form an important structural component in cell membranes. Hydrocarbons are extremely hydrophobic. Right? And here's another word that we need to know what it means because it's going to come up very often, especially in this unit and unit 3. Hydrophobic means water fearing or afraid of water. Okay? So adenosine triphosphate, or be referred to from this point forward as ATP. This is the primary molecule in cells for energy transfer. So remember that energy is stored in chemical bonds. Think back to Unit 1 that we talked about. Chemical bonds holds potential energy, and when those bonds are broken, kinetic energy is released. So with ATP, the 3 phosphate groups, which are right here, 1, 2, 3, or really goes the other way, 1, 2, 3. The bonds between these groups stores a large amount of energy. Okay, when the bond between the second and third phosphate group breaks, energy is released. The product of this, or cellular respiration, is ADP, adenine diphosphate, adenosine diphosphate, I'm sorry, and a phosphate group. In order to remake ATP from ADP and a phosphate group, energy is needed. Remember, energy has to be put in to make chemical bonds, and energy has to be put in to break chemical bonds. In order to store energy in a chemical bond, you have to put energy into it. So energy from, that should be food, not feed, is used to facilitate this reaction. That process is called cellular respiration, which is when we break apart ATP. All right, so feel free to go back and watch this video, pause it, take notes from it. Be sure to ask me questions and also be sure to complete the form that goes with it. Hope you're having a great day. Thank you.